Okay, so here is my task that I implemented in my Algebra 1 class. It's a bell work assignment, which is basically they do 3 questions over the previous lesson that they learned. It's a little review and a great way for them to, it's a great classroom management tool. So they get in, they get started on their bell work, and then while they're doing that, I hand out notes for the next lesson and we go from there. Um, So it was originally just supposed to be 10 minutes, and I had a timer for it, and it would kick them out. But I took that off. I just forgot to take it out of the instructions. But anyway, they complete 3 problems to the best of their ability, and I have to do a preview so that way you don't see any kids' grades or anything like that. And my school is pretty picky about recording the students or just recording their responses. So you get me and I'll tell you about what they talked about. Okay, so the first one you just solve using cross product property. Um, you should get 1 and 2. This one was a little difficult for my students. They didn't recognize that when you multiply the n plus 1 times the n plus 2, that you get your n squared property, which if you solve and get everything on one side, you can factor and then set those factors equal to 0. So I don't know if I should maybe change this one. I don't want it to be too simple, but for the most part, most of my students didn't get this question right. So then we go on to the next. Okay, this is the second question. I think moving forward, I would have this be the third question. So like, let's say it took you 12 seconds to do in sit-ups. Okay, so I would have them do that, and then they had to use that information to figure out how long it would take them to do 200 sit-ups. So they'd have to set up, equals x over 200 sit-ups. And a lot of the times when I was walking around the room, I had to remind them, hey, this is kind of related to what we did on Friday, which was proportions, because some of them were kind of getting stuck. And then I got a lot of the question of, how do I set this up? Like, did I set that up right? So I would ask them, yeah. So they asked about if they set this up right, and I would counter with, well, what are you setting it equal to? And then after all of the students submitted their assignment, we talked about the different ways you could set it up and still get the same answer. So if this was your rate, it would take you about 240 seconds, or really that's 4 minutes. And then you would hit next. And after everything was submitted, we talked about how would it really take you 4 minutes to do 200 sit-ups, and we talked about how other factors play into how fast you do something, whether it be fatigue or whatnot. Okay, this one is the third question. I would like to move this, for next year, I would move this so that it is second instead, because it gives you a rate right here, 3 miles in 22 minutes. And they would solve it like, how far does she run? So X miles in 33 minutes. So then you'd use your cross multiplication and solve and go from there. This one is a step up from the second one because the proportion isn't set up for you. And then my second question is probably the most advanced one. One funny thing is I did have a student say she didn't run further than 3 miles because she hurt herself in that 3 miles. So that was that was fun. Um, and the kids really liked it because they had to get up and do something. And I even jumped in and like did the sit-ups with them so that they would do it because they were kind of unsure. But overall, I think this was a good task, and I'm gonna try and keep doing my bell work questions uh, as far as like one lower level and two higher level from here on out, just because it created a good discussion and it got them up and moving and kind of excited and focused for the day.